My name is Ben Sessions. In these videos, I'm trying to go through with you the basics of your DUI case and the process that your case is probably going to follow. The first court date that you're going to have in your case is what's called an arraignment. An arraignment is where a judge is required to inform you of the charges pending against you. In the vast majority of our cases, we know exactly what the charges are. We know what the allegations are. So we really don't need to have what's called a formal arraignment. That's where the judge is required to read out the charges against you. But let's say, for example, that your case starts off in a municipal court. Well, in a municipal court, you may have multiple arraignment dates. If your case is in Atlanta, for example, you will probably have at least 3 different settings of the arraignments. That means that you'll have one setting where you come in, your case just gets reset in order for the city to get information about the case. You'll have another setting where they will report back to the judge whether or not they've gotten everything in and whether or not they're producing it for you. And then you'll have another setting, for example, to determine whether or not you're going to enter a plea or not guilty plea and bind the case over to state court from there. That is your right. You have a right to bind the case over. We'll talk about that a little bit more in another video. But in a municipal court, it's not at all uncommon for you to have multiple arraignment dates. And usually, unless you're actually entering a guilty plea, that is, you've got some sort of negotiated resolution whereby you're entering a plea to some charges in the case, you probably will not have to appear on any of those scheduled arraignment dates. If your lawyer knows what they're doing, knows how to navigate through the process, we can really save you some time in terms of those appearances. That's what most of my clients are really concerned about is, are they going to have a bench warrant and a bond forfeiture because they don't appear there? And the answer is generally, if you have a lawyer who understands what they're doing and who you can rely upon to be there for you, you probably don't have to be there in the vast majority of municipal courts. There are some exceptions. You need to know that in some local municipalities, you are required to be there, but that really is sort of the exception to the rule. In the vast majority of municipal courts, you don't have to be. But let's say, for example, that your case starts off in a state court. So if you're in Gwinnett County State Court or Henry County State Court or Douglas County State Court or Fulton County State Court, then you will have an actual arraignment date where you enter a plea of not guilty or guilty on your arraignment date. And usually in those cases, very rarely is there a case where we're actually going to enter a guilty plea at the arraignment date. So very rarely is it that we have a negotiated resolution for a case that we are going to resolve at the very first date. And that's usually because we don't have full discovery at that point in time. The state isn't required to give us the incident report, give us the video, any of the information that you really need to resolve the case at or before the arraignment. In fact, we have 10 days within which from the arraignment date to actually file motions for discovery, and then the state will be required to turn over that information for us. So usually the way that I handle the arraignment date in a state court is that we file what's called a waiver of formal arraignment. That means that we're not going to require, again, the judge to read the charges out to us, and we're just entering a not guilty plea to it. From there, then we'll decide what it is that we're doing with the case. But in the vast majority of these courts, I'd say I'm not aware of a state court in the state of Georgia in which you cannot waive formal arraignment. That is, there's not really any that require a person to be there if your lawyer is filing the appropriate documentation. So I hope this has kind of relieved some of the anxiety that you may have about the arraignment date, what's going to happen on that date or not happen on that date. That just answers some of your questions about the arraignment. If you have any other questions, feel free to call me. My name is Ben Sessions. My phone number is 470-225-7710. Again, 470-225-7710. Thank you.